did this on my own computer on my personal computer last night, and I'm watching everything. I didn't watch. So.
All right, gentlemen, you're live on YouTube.
Okay, we'll try to keep it neat and tidy and brief. I guess we can call the meeting to order. I'd like to.
Yes.
Okay. Let the record show it's 8 a.m. And it looks like those presents are Jim Johnston's here. I'm here. I'm Fred Sheen. With Jim, an elected auditor, Joan McVall, Jeff Eastburn, and Mary. I'm going to have you say your last name so I don't mispronounce it.
Mary Opramola.
Okay, thank you. And I guess there's no members of the public present at this time.
No.
Okay. I guess the next order of business is to select some public comment, but since there are no public members of the public present, we can proceed to the next step. Oh, also to note, Larry Jones, who was also an elected auditor, my understanding is he's no longer a resident of the township. So I guess he is ineligible to serve by virtue of that, but he still needs to tender his resignation. So as Joan mentioned earlier, that's been initiated. The letter's been prepared for him to tender resignation, but we need to have a replacement for his position. And I guess, are there any thoughts from the floor about how that will proceed?
But the board will be the one to choose a replacement for Larry, but they would rely on any recommendations the two of you would have. And if there's no one that you have in mind, then we will just put something on our website saying we're looking for, an auditor.
Yeah, Fred,
Jim,
right. If there's someone we know that actually wants to, we can let the board know. And the chairman, last time I remember this, the chairman actually brought it to the board, opened it up for comment, talked about who that person was, and then the board voted that person in.
Yes.
It was pretty simple.
okay.
But finding the person is probably the hardest part.
I just became aware of it recently. I haven't really given a lot of thought, but I guess if we could all be tasked with trying to find anyone that would be interested in serving, to bring them to the board's attention then.
Yes, like I said, if you have anyone that you'd like to suggest, that would be fantastic. And if not, then we will put something on our website saying that we're looking for an auditor, and hopefully we'll get some names to consider, which we will, definitely provide to you so you can give your comments.
Okay. Okay. Then I guess the next order of business would be to the nomination election of a chairperson for this committee of two right now. I think we've done this before, Jim. It's one of us surrenders our sword and then the other takes over.
That's right.
So I think at present I'm the holder of the sword, so to speak. And I would nominate you to be the chairperson for the coming term.
Okay, I would accept that nomination.
Okay. I am relieved and glad, and I'm sure, having served in the position, and you have the adequate experience to serve adequately.
Yes, and then
That
likewise,
unanimous vote?
I was like, who seconds that? Do we second it?
Now, actually, Jim should have nominated himself and then Fred, you seconded.
Can he do
I
that?
couldn't
Okay.
wait to nominate him. I wanted to catch him before he decided.
You're afraid.
And I
my-
thought it was the opposite. I thought it would be,
He can
privilege.
self-nominate.
So I'll nominate myself for chairperson for the 2021 audit season.
And I will second.
Okay. And I guess, Fred, then you would do the same for secretary.
Okay. You're nominating me as, or I'm nominating myself as secretary. And I'm looking, I guess, for a second by Jim.
And I would second that, Fred.
Okay. And we have two motions carried, 2-0. It's like a soccer game almost. Thanks, Mary, for circulating the minutes for the meeting. Just seems like a year ago we went through this, and it was, as I recall, we had an extended discussion about the appointment, the reappointment of the existing outside auditor, the independent auditor. And I was just curious to know, has anyone heard any developments in the interim since the whole turmoil in our in the Kennett Township has been, whether it's been resolved or it's in process, or what the status of that is?
My understanding it is in process and that the former manager is scheduled to go to trial, I believe in March. I may be off on that date. Unless something happens before then. I know they've recovered some of their funds through insurance and other processes, but of course they're still out money. And I think it's still an ongoing investigation.
Okay, well, then I guess the next question is, have you had any interaction with the current audit, the independent auditor, or?
Not for 2020 yet. I mean, they usually come in January and we do that, but they came to our April or May meeting via Zoom and reported on the 19 audit, and everything went as smooth as it normally does.
Oh,
And
good.
and if you will recall, last year we talked about some of the checks and balances that we have here at the township, since we're such a small staff that we can't delegate a lot of jobs to different people. So some of us have to do many different jobs, but we have the checks and balances in place so that there's somebody. For example, Mary opens the mail. I don't touch the mail, so I don't know what comes in. Jeff approves the invoices that I pay, so that I don't just write checks. So I mean that's some of the balances that we have. Mary takes the checks in and reports them, and then goes into the for deposit. So I think we have a good process in place.
Yeah, I think, and it's important that the residents know that these processes are being they exist and they're being implemented. And I hope we can stress the need for the independent auditors to come back and appear as they did on prior occasions to explain the nature and extent of their work. And just so everyone understands, I think, not that you can ever do a perfect job, but I think we've done a pretty good job in explaining the ins and outs of this to the public, to the extent they have interest in this, because I think when you see headlines like that we did a year ago plus, it does grab your attention and makes you wondering what is happening, what is being done to prevent that in our own township. And it seems to me that we're pretty much ahead of the game in that regard.
We are, and we've been that way for quite a few years. I know some of the problems that cause, or I should say some of the issues that cause the problems in Kennett. for example, the auditors were not allowed to come to meetings. The audit reports were given to the manager, and she distributed them or replaced pages as she saw fit. And where we don't do that here, the audit report goes to the secretary, and I actually suggested that they mail a copy to the chairman of the board so that there's no confusion as to what is a legitimate copy. So again, we've done a lot of things to make sure that nothing like that happens here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing to invite and welcome and make inquiries of the independent auditors, just so they're aware that there's a high degree of public interest in what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Jim, is that for, Fred, I'm sorry, is that for the BOS meeting? Is that what you're talking about? Attending a meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Which they do every year.
Yes.
And their presentations have been pretty informative. I remember, I guess it was 2 years ago, they had the change of the partner in charge of the engagement, and they both spoke. And at least from my perspective, I found it very informative. And I think it's important to let the residents of Franklin Township know that that opportunity exists for them to find these things out, just to better inform themselves. Any comments, Jim?
I would just add that I think that the audit meeting last year, we did a pretty good job. Joan did a great job of explaining all the controls that she did and the township employees did. And then we carried that on to the Board of Supervisors, who really thoroughly went through. And Fred, you did a great job of explaining how the audit works and how the auditors work. And then and we opened it up to the public, which I don't think there was many there, but I think we gave everyone enough chance to question or inquire about any of the procedures that we go through as a township. And overall, I think the auditors explained themselves very well, and they made all of us very comfortable with who they are as an audit firm, especially in the municipal space. So again, I think we went through all the things that Kenneth went through. We went through all the things that we did to prove controls are in place.
Yeah.
So I think it went very well. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Just a quick question for Joan and Mary and Jeff. The procedures that are outlined in these, the minutes from last year's meeting, they're still all in place and being observed. Is my understanding correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And really, that's what the independent auditors, their job is to validate and verify that, and to ensure that they're being applied properly to eliminate the possibility of any material misstatements in the financial statements. So just good to reiterate and know that there haven't been any changes, because I think as Jim alluded to, the policies in place are good ones. They're solid. A lot of compensating controls in there that help eliminate any blind spots in a small staff. So I hope they're maintained, and thank you both for doing a good job in making sure that they are.
I guess we need to approve the minutes from last year. So
I would move that they be approved. Yes.
I'll second that.
Is there any new business for us to address?
there's two. One nominated, I can't think of anything, Frank. the board last night at their reorganization meeting, we appointed Barbara Kay to do the audit for the 2020 year. So, you know, again, we will be working with them. And
Okay.
everything is, you know, is pretty much the same.
Is there any indication, is there any change in the staffing on this engagement, our engagement?
I haven't heard from them as yet. I think Tim is the managing partner that's going to oversee the staff that comes to us. But I also, Pam Baker used to be our managing partner, but she still calls me, and you know, she still has her hand in Franklin Township too. So we actually have two looking over our stuff, our work. So I could let you know when I hear from Barbara Kane as to the schedule. They'll let me know when they plan to be here, and I can let you know if you should want to talk to them at any time.
Yeah, and also too, Jim, I think it's appropriate if they have any questions for us, not that we have our hands directly in the work, but if they want to talk to us, I think they would. Speaking for myself, I'd be happy to talk with them, and I don't know what your feelings are on that.
I'm up for anything that you want to do. If you want to talk to them about, you know, more of what they do, the controls, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay. Well, we won't get in their way, for fear of they might tell us to roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Yeah, but you only earn $10 an hour.
All I would say, I wouldn't quibble about the rate, but I would just tell you that the statements aren't going to be done on time. And leave it at that. Okay, well, is there any public comment?
I don't think there's any public available.
No
No.
problem.
That being the case, unless there's some objections from the floor, I would move that we adjourn the meeting. And to thank all its participants for joining in and providing their comment.
I agree. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you on the video. Yes, Mary.